He said Georgia did fairly. She wanted to put Missouri.
Oh, my goodness. Don't tell me you've got springs. She's not here. I'll probably fall over these. I got some.
Chosen people have survived the Bulldog one again. Barely.
Okay, you're undefeated.
So, that reminded me of how important football is. Can you hear me now?
Got to turn it
Can you hear me now?
It needs to be turned on, I think.
I think there's not many things that God has created. Dogs are good. Flowers are one of God's great inventions. They smell good, they look good, and they bring us joy. But the thing is, they're just like everything else. They're temporary. And I have to remind myself that Georgia's success now is temporary. I kept reminding my son that our failures 20 years ago were temporary. But at any rate, college football is the only thing I know of that allows an 85-year-old man to act like a 10-year-old with impunity. But my son comes over and watches all the games with me. And his brother used to do that before he died, and we'd all commiserate and carry on, have a good time with it, and we still remember him. But that reminds me of how temporary life is. The cemetery where my son's buried is between here and my house, so I stop by there every once in a while. They still haven't got a tombstone for him, but they got a little plastic thing in it. But it has been ordered, they tell me. But at any rate, temporary is the way things are with us. You consider how long are we going to be here? Compared to eternity, that's not very long. So it behooves us to make the best of what time we have to do as much good as we can, because I guarantee you that's going to make you feel a whole lot better than doing bad. I know the difference. I have done bad in my life. I purposely. Not maybe. But at any rate, the grass withers, the flower fades away, but the word of the Lord remains forever.
Amen.
So just keep that in mind.
That's right.
This too shall pass, whether it's good or bad. Make the most of the good. Amen.
Amen.
Make sure that mic's on. That better?
Oh, that's better. For Josh. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm so happy.
So am
I feel like we should all go home after that. That was amazing. I always start every lesson, meeting at work, whatever, with a positive focus. So it's just, does anybody have any blessings God they'd like to shout out this week that God gave them?
Yeah, Jacksonville got saved.
The weather's the obvious, like the obvious answer.
We missed the
We
bullet.
dodged the bullet.
We did. I mean, how fortunate.
We're all
Amen.
still here.
We are. I have a friend who works for a power company in the Lakewood Ranch, if anybody knows where that is. And they're going through it, trying to get power back on people.
We have a nephew in, where? down in the Naples area. And thank goodness he lost everything in the first floor, but that was 2 garages and an all-purpose room, and they can still live upstairs.
Oh,
but
great.
they
That's
do
a
not
praise.
have water or electricity yet as of this morning. He has a building construction degree, which
that's
is
good.
awesome, and he said
That's a
we
skill
got
I
all
don't
the
have.
drywall and the insulation out, which was a big thing for
Yeah.
him.
But the things are just temporary, you know?
That's
Right
right.
to this point, they're just temporary. They're just things. That's what we keep trying to tell
Yeah,
people. They're
things.
just things. It doesn't matter.
It's not our whole life.
Right, as long as you have yourself and your eternal perspective, then what else is there really? So we're going to talk about Moses today. And I think this is a lesson everybody's heard before. It's right up there with the crucifixion. You hear it in Bible study, you hear it when you're 3 years old, you hear it when you're 4 years old, and you hear it when you're 104 years old, I guess. But you learn something new every time. I know I did looking over this, and every time I looked over it this week. And really, to me, it spoke to justice and injustice in the world. And Krista and I were talking, well, where do you really see injustice? Well, when you have a child, and my kid, to his point, my kid's obsessed with sports. So if it's college football's on, and he's going to scream out every injustice that happens. Yesterday, it was, I don't know if y'all saw this, Oklahoma was playing TCU. And there were 3 plays in a row. The TCU quarterback the Oklahoma quarterback slides, and the guy went premeditated head-to-head and took out the Oklahoma quarterback.
That didn't happen in the Kentucky game.
Yeah.
They didn't call it.
They didn't call it. I didn't see that one. So then what happened? There was a series of 3 plays immediately, boom, 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 after that. One of which was a fair catch. But the guy clearly didn't weigh fair catch. I don't know what the ref saw. He literally must have been having visions, because the player is just standing there, catches it and starts running, and they blew the whistle, and my kid's losing it over the injustice of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And and if he's been unjustly, something's happened to him that's not just, then it's going to be nonstop griping. And so my cousin's always like, there are no fair police. Don't look for the fair police, they don't exist. So you got to roll with it and move on to the next thing. And that's hard for me to do as an adult, and it's really hard for a child to do. So anyway, today, to circle back around to Moses. So Moses was born to and I didn't realize this. Does anybody know what tribe? Oh, nice, impressed. So he was born to the Levite tribe. If you go back to Jacob's last words, he was not so kind to Levi. That's the understatement of the day. These 2 were kind of shysters, number 1 and 2. But Levi, was a terrible human being, but then what good came from him that God worked it out of his own plan. So anyways, I'll read it for you since I have it right in front of me, and then I like the way they do it where they broke it down. So now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then the sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." So I guess we'll start at the top. We already mentioned this with the leave. Where I was. I think it's, no, well, I don't see it. Anyway, they tell us the key text is she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. The question I had and they had was, what do you think it meant that he was a fine child? It's not clear. It wasn't clear to the, the author of this either. Maybe it means he was good or not usual, not normal. I don't know how you would.
Didn't have college.
Didn't have college. Yeah.
How did they see that?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Our kid didn't have college.
You had a fine child.
I saw my fine child standing on top of the roof down here 2 Sundays ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh yeah. So we were having multiple come to Jesus's.
Sounds like you're a fine child.
My wife calls that the crap's coming out. That's what my dad told her. So he was a Levite. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. Now, the background is, this I didn't realize, we have the tribe of Jacob, and the tribe of Jacob was just multiplying over and over and over and over, to the point they started to become as numerous or more numerous than the Egyptians. So the Egyptians these people are they're not of no concern to the Egyptians at this point. Jacob's been very helpful, Joseph, but over time, what happens is as they multiply, then they start to become more fearful, because now they're starting to get outnumbered by the Israelites. At that point, the Pharaoh, or whoever was in charge at the time, decides we're going to start to institute a policy to get rid of the firstborn male child. I had no idea. So that was sort of the background of what was going on. So when the Pharaoh's daughter finds this boy, or that she has Moses, the mother has Moses, that's why she was so concerned. That's why the Pharaoh had issued the order that was inherently unjust. And that's why Moses' mother did what she did, and that's why. But then the key question was, well, we have Pharaoh's daughter in the story, and she knows that this policy is unjust. So what does she do? She's got her dad's the one that's issued the policy. How are you supposed to react? And how do we see those things in our lives, the just or the unjust, and how to do it with the government, and how do we handle that? One thing that I thought was interesting was it referenced Romans, if I can find it. I thought I had it. It's Romans 7. I just read this morning, the Romans part. Anyway, I'll paraphrase it, but what it says in Romans is essentially that we are respectful to authority. God put the people in authority for a reason. So my question was, well, how do you put these two together? Like Hitler was put in authority. So does that mean everything that Hitler says? Yeah, this is an extreme example, but well, no. We see the just and the unjust through the Word and through God's eyes, and that's how we have to make our decisions based off the Word of God. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. And then another thing I thought was interesting was, can anybody think of any other example in the Bible where someone's mother did something similar to Moses?
Mary.
Mary, I mean, that's a great example. Yeah, the one I was thinking of was Samuel. Samuel's mom
She gave him to
gave him up to,
Gave him up
just was,
completely.
yeah, so desperate to have a child. And then when she had that child, it was not, she didn't see it as her child, she saw it as God's child. Then I was reading a parenting book the other day, I
the
was like,
beautiful
right,
example.
it really is. And, you know, those kids aren't our kids, they're God's kids. And we're just sort of, we're here to show them the way through the word and correcting their behavior if they're not doing things. But they're not our kids, they're God's kids, just like we're God's children. So yeah, the Samuel story I thought for me, I don't know why, we had a class with Dale and we talked about Samuel. And I didn't realize the depths of that mother's, you know, I guess are you all familiar with that? Basically Samuel's mom wanted a child so badly. If you give me the child, I'll then give you, and that's to give him to God, and that's what she did. She immediately turned around and gave him to the church. So that was the one that came to mind. I thought about that. I thought that's really the ultimate. Mary's given this child, and he disappeared, right? Like the only story we really have is him staying at the church when he was a child. You know, he's born, he stayed at the church, then he starts his ministry. So why is that one story in the Bible that he stayed at the church? I think that's an interesting point. I think it's because it was that important that he was had been given to the church. Let's see what was next. Oh, so the question was, what needs do you see in your community? Can you think of any injustices? Think of anything, Krista?
The whole world has to die.
I just loved it. Besides the referee on the soccer field. Did you already talk about that?
We are talking about that. All sports.
All
Yeah,
sports.
we talked about the football game.
Right, right. That's
So our child really struggles if it's personal.
Sure.
If you're, you know, I thought, I do too. If I'm the one that's feeling unjust, that's hard to, you know, it's hard to put my shoes in Moses's mother's. You know, I can only imagine what that would be like. You carry this kid for 9 months. Yeah, the soccer field, that's where we've seen it. Yeah.
Well, elaborate on the soccer game.
Our child's uber,
he's really in tune with the rules, and he's like very careful about, I know what the rules are, I'm gonna follow the rules. And I'm very similar to that, and there's an expectation that you're gonna follow them too. So when you don't follow the rules and you don't get caught, that's like a huge injustice in his mind. And I get it, and it's hard too, you know what I mean? Like that hurts to see somebody else get away with something that they're not supposed to be doing. So it's really, that's a big thing we talk about all the time. But you know, there is no fair police, like you heard. Like it is broken. We see that daily in the justice system. People get acquitted that are guilty, and people sit in jail that are innocent. You know, like it is broken here. And I think that's a hard thing to swallow and wrap your head around, and know that ultimately God is the perfect judge, and all the ones here will never be perfect.
yeah.
We have a perfect example. Our granddaughter and grandson just adopted a baby. And the reason she was up for adoption, the mother could not afford her. And you know, that's grief on the mother's side, and it was happiness for us.
Right.
But when our grandson died, great-grandson died, it was sad for us. But there were a lot of people that lived because of him, because they got his kidneys, they got his liver, different parts. So sometimes it's joy on one side and grief on the other. And it's difficult
they knew for that mother to give up her child. But yet it made us so very happy. You know, but that's sad that she had to give the child up because she could not afford it.
Yeah.
And the grandson that we lost was the epitome of following the rules. His little brother, the rule is him.
Oh, yeah. That's our kid.
Yeah.
Our kid's intensity meter goes to 400. Yeah, and the rules, right. They definitely apply to everyone else.
Yeah.
Yes, not to me.
Yeah.
I have continually beat my two sons over the head with a rule, but the only thing in life that's fair is a ball hit between first and third.
It's just not
Yeah.
here.
I feel like I should go home. Every time you open your mouth, I feel like we should dismiss. That one's coming out. We have a baseball game tomorrow. That one's coming out. Yeah, it's not fair. And there is that give and take. Do you want to tell them about Beth's story about adopting? Or?
Well, we have a good friend who was fostering to adopt. And was in the program and fostered a number of children. She's an pediatric orthopedic surgeon. She loves children. She has like 15 nieces and nephews. She's truly an amazing human. She never got married. I think she was very career focused and she never got married. So the time comes and she wants to help to raise a child. So she tries to foster to adopt. And she does the fostering for a little while and then goes, okay, yes, I want to do this permanently. I would like to adopt a child. And she got burned by the system. It's unfair. She was a perfect person to have a baby, but this baby got put back with its natural parents. And that system, oh, it was awful for her. And she was very burned and thought she would never, be able to have a child. And somebody that worked with her, like her medical assistant in Nemours, it had only been like a month or so since this baby was taken from her and given back to their birth parents. She says, I know a girl who's 20, who's got a bad situation that she's in. She'd been irresponsible and she got pregnant from somebody she wasn't even dating. She didn't know what she was gonna do. Kind of a one-night thing happened. She didn't know what she was gonna do. And she said, Ben, would you consider adopting, like a private adoption? She talked with this girl and she says, I would love to talk to her. And so she was able to follow this woman's pregnancy and adopt this child. And it's the most incredible, beautiful story because Benjamin, who knows what could have been a Benjamin, right? We don't know what that mother could have done had God not given her Beth. And so there's this mother who desperately wants a child, and now she has him, and Benjamin's 10, and it's truly a beautiful story. And so people can be so blessed by adoption. And here's this woman who now has gotten married and had a family of her own, and she does keep in touch with Beth, and she's met Benjamin now a couple of times, and so now he's 10 and he's old enough to have these questions. But it's good that there can be that open communication.
Adoption, there's this too, versus adoption.
It's huge, it's incredible, because now Benjamin has Beth, and Beth has her little boy, and it's just the most beautiful thing to me in the whole wide world. And when they drive past Baptist South, she says, there's the Ben store. That's where I got my Benjamin, And he understands that he was chosen. It was, he was truly wanted and chosen and prayed for, and
That's the way our situation was. They would get down to two different set of parents, and then they'd always choose the other ones.
Oh.
But this mother had lost a little boy, and she felt that when she saw their resume, I guess you'd say, she felt a closeness because she had lost a stillborn. That was important.
Yeah, that's.
This idea that if you wait long enough, you'll see what God's plan was, is sometimes so very hard to do. And yet, I can just see situation after situation after situation where in time we knew why. We may have felt like that God said no to our prayers at one point.
Which is an answer.
Which one?
Right,
Which is
that's
an
right.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they waited 4 years, you know.
But, I mean, to his point, the temporariness of it all,
Yeah.
and we don't all see it, you know, God made this promise to Abraham. He doesn't see, oh, we got a problem 1,000 years later because we had God's over-fulfilled his promise, and we've got all these Israelites running around Egypt. You know, it was just Abraham when he makes that promise. And so we don't always live to see the promises fulfilled or.
Well, even Moses didn't.
No.
Moses did not go to the promised
No, he
land.
didn't.
That's right.
He was denied.
What'd you say?
Moses did something wrong, I think he.
Moses was not a saint.
Something and he's not.
Yeah, he,
None of us
I
are.
think he killed somebody.
I beg your pardon.
Well, I mean, my prior career was as an attorney. I don't know if we have any attorneys here or judges or anything, but it's very hard where you feel like your client, and I'll tell everybody, I've never had a case where they both weren't. There wasn't some, there's no black and white, it's always the gray. And we always joke that we loved when our clients got deposed because we got to find out what our clients were lying about at that point.
Yeah.
That they had been lying to us the whole time. Now all of a sudden we're like, where did that come from? But you feel like this is right. This is, and you go to the judge and he makes a ruling based off of who knows what's happened to him that day, right? He's a human being he's had his day, he's had his week, and his kid was the one that was on the roof, and he's just had to have it come to Jesus with him on the phone and then come make a decision. And you're like, God, that's not very fair, it's not very just, and there should be quicker resolution to go to the timing issue, and these things just take forever. Or someone, we have one case, the opposing counsel got breast cancer. She didn't do that on purpose, right? But now you push back 9 months or 18 months or whatever it may be, and the client's waiting for the justice to happen. And when it's a child involved, then all the emotions. So you kind of put yourself in the shoes of Moses' mom. I'm sure that's the ultimate injustice. You've had this child and you've hidden him for 3 months, and now you have to, the ultimate act of faith, put him out there and hope that this papyrus basket one doesn't sink. I mean, if I built it, it would have been in the water in 5 seconds. And that, but God did deliver Moses, and he would continue to deliver Moses throughout his life, through all the bad things he would do. And anyway, I'm off that soapbox. Let's see what else. Is there anything else we want to do? Oh, I know one thing I thought when I was reading this earlier this week that was interesting. Papyrus, if you've got, like these, I don't know if you can see this, but these are sort of the reeds. They don't look like anything fancy. They look like God, kind of God's leftovers, right? That was an idea, I'm creating the world, this one didn't work out.
And they didn't
But
have
that plant was so critically important to the Egyptian people, to the Israelites, and they're able to turn that into a basket, and that's a plant that comes about later. Yes?
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm amazed at her faith.
Oh.
I would have never put my.
No, no.
I would have.
I would have been like, Lord, what are you?
There were times we wanted to just pick him up and throw him in the river,
Yeah.
but never gently place him in the basket. Yeah,
That's one, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
But that was
It's
God's
incredible.
plan.
It was God's plan, right?
And she followed, she
Right.
followed God's lead.
Yeah, that's not me. I'm more like Jonah.
Well, we have a tendency to want to fix our own issues or problems. And instead of saying, God, what is it that I'm supposed to do?
Yeah.
I think that has come with a little bit of aging and wisdom that comes with aging. And I truly believe that wisdom does come with aging.
Nobody wants to listen to them.
What?
What Dale always says, which I think applies to me, I'm sure maybe it applies to other people too, is Dale's like, I always like to say, yep, I'm gonna go do this, and then ask for God's rubber stamp.
That's right.
Yeah.
I am so guilty of that. And what you said is, you're right.
Well, there's a woman who is often up at the Dollar Tree, TJ Maxx, and the other one, Bell's Outlet.
Marshall.
And I saw her in one of the stores one day, and she gave me this story, and I tried to help her. I even put her in my car and tried to get her to a more appropriate bus stop, etc. And then I saw her about 2 weeks later. She still had just gotten out of the hospital, and they had put her out, and she's so sick, and how could they do that to her? And I thought, man, you got me. Now, what was I to do? Was I to regret what I had done for her at the time? And Tucker said, Marilyn, you don't need to be putting strangers in your car and hauling them all over the place, which I oftentimes do, or sometimes.
And Ann knows about that.
But, you know, maybe I don't know what I was supposed to have done, but I did it. And I don't know whether I was supposed to regret it or not, but it has.
I think God knows your heart.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
For us, we always, you go to a bigger city and there's a homeless guy. They're everywhere too, and they're increasingly more here. I don't know. I feel like every major intersection. Are you to give that person money? Should you not give that person money? How do you know their true situation?
I give them food.
I think that's the best
Yeah.
answer. Chris always has like a bag with like a toothbrush, I don't know what
I
else.
carried a mana bag,
Yeah.
like our church things, like under a seat.
It's like
in
a
my
bottle
car
of
in the
water
car.
or
Yeah.
So I can handle
crackers.
something that they can use. Socks,
The important
toothbrush.
thing is you do something at the time.
Well, that's what I've come to, and to
You
what you
don't
said.
just let
It's-
it pass.
It's your heart, you know, God knows your heart, that you can't control what happens afterwards, but you can control your
I always
actions.
feel bad when I drive past someone that don't do something.
Yeah. All
I
right.
lived in Springfield, you know.
Is there anything else anybody wants to add?
Well, as speaking of the injustice, we're so blessed that we have an advocate of Jesus who will be the final judge, and he knows
Right.
everything about us.
Yeah, how bad would it be if I was,
I'm glad that he's the judge instead of you, Josh.
it'd be horrible. Well, I mean, we're just so poor,
Yes, yeah,
we're such poor judges,
yes.
or we're all hypocrites. What were we talking about? I won't go down that road, but somebody is being a hypocrite, but you know, we're just as big hypocrites as everybody else.
Does everybody know the services at the fellowship hall?
We do now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good announcement. Anyway, I think that's it. That's all I got, Ian. Thanks for letting me leave you guys.
Thank you.
I feel like I learn something every time I'm up here.
You always learn when you're leaving.
Thank you, Josh. Oh, my goodness.
morning, Asbury class. Welcome this morning. I'm going to tell you a story, if you promise not to tell my daughter.
Can't promise that.
Talking about people needing help. Several years ago, there is a small apartment building down at the end of my street. And it was cold and it was rainy, and I drove by it and I saw this couple sitting out in front with a lot of stuff. And I went on and I was gone for 2 or 3 hours. And I came back and they were still out there in the rain with all their stuff. I drove to my driveway and I turned around and went back and I said, why are you sitting out here in the rain? And they said, well, they could not get into their apartment. And it was supposed to be ready that day. But now the landlord said it would be 2 days. So I thought, oh my goodness, well, you can't sit out here in the rain. And so I said, I do have a garage. If you would like to bring your belongings to my house and put them in the garage, you are welcome. There is a bathroom. It's part of my house, but you can get to it from the garage. And so anyway, I got my truck and we loaded all of their things into my truck. And I brought this couple to my detached garage for 2 days. Well, it wasn't exactly 2 days. It was more like 3 weeks. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, my daughter's gonna come over here and she is gonna have me committed. But they were very nice. They were obviously down on their luck. The gentleman still lives there and he comes over to see me and needs $2 every once in a while. And they were there for about 3 weeks. Well, what I didn't realize is my garage does not have a kitchen. So I was preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner and taking it out to the garage. So I don't know why I did that, but I did. And the gentleman is intellectually handicapped. I just took him down to the Social Security office in the Authority Housing District. The girlfriend is long gone, but he's being evicted from his apartment now. He lives on $800 a month. You know, his rent is $820. But I'm glad I am available for him.
Amen.
And so if you're faced with a situation like that and you don't know what to do, ask God. And God said, you have a garage. So, anyway, thank you for being here this morning. I don't have to remind anybody to keep those affected by Ian in your prayers.
Amen.
I mean, it's one thing to lose your house and your belongings, but to lose the ability to hop in the shower, have a cup of hot coffee, and not knowing how to charge your phone and call your family is really pretty bad. So let's remember those people that were really affected by the storm. If you haven't done the survey that was sent out by the church, I think it's really important to do that. It will give the study team a lot of information that they haven't had before.
Where's
So-
it located?
Pardon?
Is it online? Okay.
Yeah, it's online. And you can also get a hard copy of it in the office.
Did they have the printed copies out?
Yes, they do have a printed copy. I understand you can get it in the office.
In the office?
Yeah, yeah. But it's really important to do that for the church, okay? I did receive another email from Mary Ellen, who recently moved to Athens. She was one of our teachers for a long time. And she has finally found a church that's similar to Southside. She said, not exactly the same, but similar. And she has enjoyed the videos and wanted to thank us. We're gonna have a fall get-together. Suzanne and I got together yesterday and we picked a date before Halloween, so you'll have your costumes out. You're certainly welcome to wear them, or a mask, or whatever, but get your fall recipes out. And it'll be a covered dish at Suzanne's home. I'll send out an email, October 19th, which is a Wednesday. So most of you are used to coming to the church for dinner on Wednesday night. We'll just go to Suzanne's, but don't forget your covered dish. Sorry.
Cancel your reservation at the church
Yeah,
that day.
yeah. Is there any other news items to share? Special requests? Marilyn?
Excuse me, SWM is not meeting tomorrow, but the next week. I had to make a decision last Tuesday what to do, and I went with, I said, Lord, what should I do? And I felt like to wait a week was the better thing. Of course, it's turned out to be gorgeous, but we will be delayed a week.
Okay, so it'll be next Monday, a week from tomorrow, in the Family Life Center?
Yes.
Okay.
And the 15th will be Dan Porfilio's service, and it will be at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's a Saturday.
Okay.
15th.
Are we providing food for that? Do you
Of
know?
course.
Okay, all right. Bill, you want to leave us laughing? Remember, don't ever say anything to my kids.
I'm gonna send an invitation. I'm not saying, I'm just sending an invitation.
Yeah.
I'm sending an invitation. You want to?
Wipe it out, yeah.
A minister decided a visual demonstration would add emphasis to his Sunday sermon. He put 4 worms, placed them on the table. He put 4 glasses on the table. One had alcohol in it, one was filled with cigarette smoke, one had chocolate syrup, and the other had clean dirt. At the end, he reported the following. He took a worm, dropped it in the alcohol. Worm died. Took a worm, dropped it in that little glass filled with smoke. Worm died. Dropped it in the chocolate syrup. And guess what? The worm died. Dropped it in the clean dirt. The worm just survived and dug down into it. So the preacher said, what did you learn from this demonstration? And Maxine in the back raised her hand and said, as long as you drink whiskey, smoke cigarettes, and eat chocolate, you're not going to have worms. That pretty much ended the sermon. All stand will be dismissed.